Many people might not know that Thor, the god of thunder, was around way before Marvel added him to their roster of superheroes. Aside from Odin, the All-Father, there is no deity in Norse mythology more powerful or well-known than Thor. Thor was a principal deity within many Germanic religions as far back as we have records. While the Marvel version certainly copies some aspects of Thor's character, such as him being the son of Odin, his legendary hammer Mjolnir, and his reputation as a fierce warrior, the version from Norse mythology stands apart in his own way. In this video, we have provided an overview of the God of Thunder, his various deeds, and his adaptation into popular culture through comics. So, welcome to Unnecessary Comic Stuff, and let's get started. Please watch our video till the end and do not forget to like our channel and subscribe to it for more content related to comics. In 1962, as Stan Lee continued dreaming up ideas that would comprise the core of Marvel's pantheon, he began to look beyond the boundaries of science fiction background that had brought him the space explorers of Fantastic Four, the Jekyll and Hyde monster known as Hulk, and the incredible shrinking Dr. Henry Pym. Instead, he turned to the more ethereal realm of mythology, but rather than relying on the Norse or Greek gods and goddesses, he turned his attention to the land of ice and snow, Scandinavia, from whence Norse mythology had sprung. And who else was more fit to join Marvel's fledgling pantheon of heroes other than the most famous Norse god of all, Thor, the god of thunder. Joined by artist Jack Kirby and Stan's brother Larry Lieber, who scripted the early issues, Marvel Comics' Thor was born. The original conception of Marvel's Thor was that an ordinary man, Dr. Donald Blake, was gifted the powers of Thor, much similar to another rival publisher superhero Billy Batson, aka Shazam, aka Captain Marvel, who was gifted the power of gods by the wizard named Shazam. However, as time went on, more and more of Thor's Norse roots were added, thereby establishing it that he was indeed the true god of thunder, and Dr. Donald Blake was nothing more than a secret identity for Thor. However, as the writers are accustomed to do, much creative liberty was taken to the point where there is a great deal of departure from the original mythology where Thor was adapted and the Thor that we see in Marvel comics and movies and TV series today. So, we are also going to take a look at some of those key differences right now in Thor, the Norse deities that support him, and the entire mythology that surrounds them. Thor Odinson is totally awesome. This iconic god has come a long way since his origins in Norse mythology and has found fame all over the world thanks to Chris Hemsworth's iconic portrayal of the character in Marvel Cinematic Universe. Thor's origins date all the way back to the Roman age, where he bears an uncanny resemblance to the Roman god of war, Jupiter. More recently, in the 7th century AD, there were references in Old English made to Thunor, the Saxon interpretation of Thor. Even in the Viking Age, references to Thor can be seen on charms and amulets. Then, in the 13th century, Thor and his exploits have been compiled in the Poetic Edda. From there, it's just a short hop, skip and a jump to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's interpretation in the 1960s. Thor, whose name derives from a word meaning thunder, is the son of Odin, and his mother is believed to be a female Jotun, who is also a personification of the earth, Gaia. With Thor being the strongest of the gods, his might makes him quite a capable warrior. Although, a lack of his father's wisdom and his ill will often leads to him being tricked. Thor possesses several items that aid him in his hunt. First, he possesses 2 goats that pull his chariot, and he is known to slaughter and eat these goats only to resurrect them the next day. We are extremely glad that this version did not make his way into our screens and comics. Thor also possesses a magical belt that doubles his incredible strength, and special iron gloves or gauntlets that allow him to hold his hammer. We see Marvel's Thor wield an axe named Stormbreaker in the latest installment of the Avengers movie series. However, it was not his weapon originally. It was a special weapon created by Odin for Beta Ray Bill to use after he was found worthy of lifting the Mjolnir and defeating Thor in a battle of will, but saving him from his death. However, Thor's hammer, Mjolnir, is by far his most important possession. Mjolnir, a name likely meaning lightning, is considered as one of the most powerful artifacts in the entire Norse mythology and is generally associated as a symbol of Thor. In the Norse mythology, at the time of Ragnarok, Thor faces off against the Midgard serpent. Although Thor manages to slay the serpent, he is poisoned by its venom, and after taking 9 steps, Thor drops dead. Thor has been venerated by people for centuries as the archetypical warrior. Mighty, loyal, and always willing to defend his home and the people. Although Thor would often substitute bronze for wisdom, many gods would depend on him for protection. Norse warriors would often call upon Thor to aid them in battle. In our video of comparing between mythology and Marvel characters, we have started with the God of Thunder himself, Thor. Marvel's Thor has long flowing golden locks and is typically clean shaven. However, the Thor of Norse myth was known for his red hair and beard. Marvel's Thor flies through the air by whirling his hammer Mjolnir, while the Norse Thor prefers to travel in style via his chariot drawn by the fierce gods Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. Marvel's Thor may have an edge in raw power, as the Norse version of Thor often needed a belt and magical gloves even to wield Mjolnir to its full effect. Whereas Marvel's Thor has only occasionally used these items as strength boosters. Both Thors are ladies' men, with the Marvel version counting Jane Foster and the Asgardian goddess Sif among his loves. The Norse Thor seems a bit looser, having married Sif but still carrying on torrid affairs with Giantess. In addition, we have seen Marvel's Thor spawn offsprings only in alternate futures. The Norse version of Thor is the proud papa of at least 3 offsprings from various affairs. Their differences also extend to their personalities. While Marvel's Thor is a noble hero any one of us would feel safe around, the Thor of Norse myth was a fierce warrior with a violent temper who seems to revel in the slaughter of anyone who dared to challenge him. While Marvel's Thor has always been considered a dashing chap, it wasn't until the birth of MCU and the casting of Chris Hemsworth that Thor was considered drop-dead gorgeous. Striking blue eyes, a chin chiseled from marble, and a physique that makes men, women, and even animals stand weak at their knees, Thor certainly stands out in a crowd. However, the Thor of ancient mythology stands out from the crowd for another reason. He's ugly. The original Thor had blood-red eyes, red hair, and a wild and untamed beard. Some accounts even go forth and suggest that he had a pig-like appearance. When you spend majority of your time smashing frost giants, who cares whether or not you can make people swoon with a cocked eyebrow? One similarity that the two of them share is that they have done some things they should not be proud of. No hero can be good all the time. Thor is a warrior god after all, so it stands to reason that he is going to do some really mean things. And then there is also the occasion where he has gone fully evil. Let's talk about Marvel's Thor first. In Journey into Mystery issue number 93, Thor threw a radioactive man into China, thereby causing a nuclear explosion and killing millions of people. Or the time he teamed up with Hitler to help kill Stalin in Invaders issue number 32. Probably the less said about that infamous episode, the better. Mythological Thor has a fair share of blood on his hands. He is responsible for killing thousands of giants, and some of them didn't even do anything wrong. Probably that's just Thor, he doesn't really like giants. Anyway, shifting our attention now to some of the other characters related to Thor. What of the father of gods, Odin? Marvel often portrays him as a regal, aloof figure who likes to pass on his wisdom from the high. The Odin of Norse myth was much more of an enigmatic figure, practicer of sorcery, which is something that is considered with suspicion in the Scandinavian culture. The Odin of Norse myth often took on other identities, traveling among men, either to learn or to teach. Handing down lessons, often putting Thor through some tribulation, is a pastime that both Odins share. In the comics, Odin, the wise, peace-loving father of Thor and the adopted father of Loki, tries to rule over Asgard justly and peacefully. If this Odin ever met the Odin of Norse myth, Marvel Odin would get his ass kicked. The original Odin was a war god who did not give two shits for justice, peace, or law. Odin loves war and he loves starting fights. The Norse Odin is regularly depicted as missing an eye, having sacrificed it to gain the knowledge of magic. However, this is not consistently a part of Marvel portrayal. And obviously, unlike the myth as well as shown in recent Marvel movies, Thor was never punished by Odin to walk the earth as lame Dr. Donald Blake. The Loki of Marvel Comics is typically portrayed as an out-and-out villain, constantly scheming to take down Thor and to gain control over Asgard. the Loki of Norse myth is more of a complex figure, and his role might be best described as troublemaker. At the outset, he often accompanies Thor and other Norse gods on their adventures, and often plays a helpful role, many a times coming out craftier than the rest, who depend on his tricks to get them out of trouble. Unlike in the Marvel comics, he is not the adopted son of Odin, rather they are blood brothers, meaning he is Thor's uncle. While Sif in the Marvel comics balances being a badass warrior and pining over Thor, in the original world she was much more traditional. She was Thor's wife and the goddess of harvest, and wasn't much for slaughtering enemies or even picking up swords in that matter. And now, we have come to the end of our mythological comparison. Ragnarok is the Norse version of the apocalypse, a time when a cataclysmic final battle occurs and the world as we know will be destroyed. There are variations on the tale from several different sources, but most accounts agree that it is a time when the enemies of Asgard gather to invade. The gods have to fight a bloody battle, and which results in most of them being slain. Loki, who had been imprisoned and tortured for his crimes, manages to escape his bonds and joins the Battle of Asgard. Odin faces off against the monstrous Fenrir wolf and is swallowed whole. Thor manages to slay the Midgard serpent, but also succumbs to the serpent's venom. Loki and Heimdall face and kill each other. The Surtur sets the entire universe on fire, and the whole of humanity is wiped out. Eventually, the battle comes to its conclusion, but all hope is not lost. A few gods do survive, and even two humans who are foretold to repopulate the world. Ragnarok has been ported a number of times throughout Thor history at Marvel, most notably in Thor issue number 128, which concludes Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's Odin Sword Quest storyline. But given Thor's role as a valuable franchisee for Marvel, the Marvel version of Ragnarok has never quite been the final showdown that it has been in the Norse myth. Even in the movie Thor Ragnarok War, we see Thor make it out alive in the end. Earliest records that mention Thor are made by Romans. He is recorded via a method in which they understand the other cultures and their mythologies by comparing it with their own. They found Thor to be quite similar to Hercules, mainly because they used similar kind of weapons. Germanic people adopted the Roman weekly calendar, and they replaced the names of their gods and goddesses with some of their own, probably from which Thursday was made into Thursday in modern English. Even during Christianization, Thor-based names and Thor's hammer pendants were used by people to oppose it and keep their religion alive. The pendant was a way for them to show their religion, and it was shaped like an inverted cross. Thor was invoked by some people, especially warriors, till as late as the 12th century. Archaeological record shows that 4 runstones with inscriptions related to Thor were discovered in Denmark and Sweden. Thor's pendant were found from the earth at various burial places of the Vikings. Thor is also likely the half-brother of 3 Hindu gods that make up the Trimurti: Brahma the creator, Vishnu the preserver, and Shiva the destroyer. Now, in Hinduism, whether these gods were created or how they were created is up for debate, and the same is the case in Marvel, where their origins are shrouded in legend. But the origin that is most popular in Marvel is that all 3 were created when they emerged from the golden womb of Gaia. As such, they are typically considered to be Gaia's children, thus Thor's brothers. Later on, Gaia was known by the name of Aditi in the pantheon, and in Hinduism, Aditi is the name of the mother of one of the incarnations of Lord Vishnu. So it could be considered that Thor is at least closely related to Lord Vishnu. Even if we keep this theory aside, swastik symbol, which appears in Hindu culture, is also considered and identified as representing the hammer or lightning of Thor. Thor is also particularly associated with the Hindu god Indra, mainly due to his red hair and his thunderbolt weapon, the Vajra. Thor is not a character limited to the Marvel Comics universe, as he has also appeared in a number of video games and is also expected to appear in the highly anticipated game God of War 2. The first installment of the game series ends on a cliffhanger, with Thor knocking on Kratos' door. No surprise, since his sons Magni and Modi died at the hand of Kratos. Then we see a fleeting silhouette of Thor and a glimpse of his hammer before the credits roll. However, it does not end there. Post-credits, Atreus mentions that he had a dream that Kratos would fight Thor, thereby confirming our suspicion that he will arrive in Season 2. Even in Fortnite Chapter 2, Season 4 Battle Pass is centered around a bunch of Marvel superheroes like Iron Man and She-Hulk, but the pass starts with Thor, the Asgardian god of thunder. Fortnite's version of Thor has the similar features as Marvel's Thor, but a knowledge of his mythological version goes on to show why Marvel made so many changes to the source material of Norse mythology. All in all, Marvel's Thor just has so much deep and rich history that his number of feats far outweigh everything every other Marvel superhero has done so far. Marvel's Thor has battled galaxy-level enemies, destroyed Celestials, forged a large number of weapons, and cemented a legacy that has reached mainstream status today. And although popular culture has certainly warped the image of the Thunder God, he will always be one of the most legendary warriors to exist in myth. If you have managed to make it so far in this video, I would recommend you to check out other videos from our channel. Also, connect with us on Instagram, Twitter, and check out our website. Links are given in the description below. Since we have just recently started this channel, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. We'll see you next week with another video on unnecessary comic stuff.